Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett, and in this video, I am so excited to be sharing with you some design terms you need to know in order to nail it in your home. As a formally trained interior designer, I absolutely love what I do, but sometimes I have to explain some things that my clients want to know or how to get the best thing in your home, and these terms are gonna help you do it. So the first thing we have to talk about, the first term you absolutely have to know, and in my opinion, one of the most important elements of interior design is scale. There are considered to be 7 principles of interior design. You have like harmony and balance and scale and proportion and lots of other ones, but for me, scale is the most important. And what scale means is it's kind of a blanket term that we use to describe the size or proportions or the way something balances out. What's the scale of that? Does the scale of that match this? What's it doing to the scale of the space? Because small, medium, large, like those are sizes, and that's just not a descriptive enough term. Whether something is small or not, it doesn't matter. The dimensions, the number measurement on it doesn't make a difference. It's all about how does it look and how does it feel in relation to something else. That is scale. The scale of your space. We can bring in things that have a taller feeling, a taller scale, and they will make the scale of your space, the ceiling height of your space, look taller. And that is something we can do. We can play with these proportions to create more dramatic scale, or we can use scale to create a space that feels very harmonious in the shape and the size of furniture, in the balance of it. So, seat height, for example. Getting all of your seating in the space that has the same seat height will make it all feel harmonious, even if it's not, a furniture set. Scale is essential, and it's one of my favorite parts of design. I think it's one of the hardest things to nail, but once you learn what it is, it's one of the easiest, and it will make any space feel more luxurious, more beautiful, and more thoughtful. Now, if you're having any issues in your home, whether it's with scale or anything, any way otherwise, I am at your service. You can always book a one-on-one consultation with me using the link in the description box down below or going to intro.co/GarrettLeChic. Another term and something I absolutely love, but I don't think I've ever talked about, or not much anyway, is a double rub. And a double rub is what it sounds like. It's a rub, it's a double rub. But what does a double rub mean, and why does it matter? When fabrics are created, they are tested. So the weave of the fabric, the material, the makeup of the fiber that goes into the yarn, that goes into the fabric, all of it, it's all tested because we want to see what the quality, what the durability of that is to determine where we can use it. And a double rub is how we do that. A wire brush like this. I mean, this is not necessarily what would be used in that procedure. This is more for like crafting, but it's a brush made of wire, is taken and rubbed back and forth. That's one double rub over a piece of fabric. And that is done until the fabric wears out, until it starts to fray, until it starts to break down and fall apart. And why that matters is because it determines the durability where we can put that. Something with 20,000 double rubs, for example, is not a very strong fabric. It would be appropriate to use in maybe a formal living room of a home. But something with 120,000 double rubs, that's a pretty strong and durable material. It's honestly kind of gonna be like canvas. That would be a great fabric or material to use in a commercial space, like a hotel room or a lobby of a building, something that is more delicate, a more high-end fabric, something like, silk, or something with a very, light weave, like a tweed or a boucle, for example, is going to have a lower double rub count than something like a canvas. So you have to be considerate of what you are looking out for when it comes to fabric and the fiber and the materials used to make the furniture in your home. Let's talk about modern. Modern is not just a style, it's not just a word, it is a little bit of everything. Modern can be a feeling, it can be a style that's a specific style, or it could be in reference to a time period. The modern time period relates to modern design, which started with Art Deco in 1926 or so, up until about the 80s, I'd say. That's kind of the peak of modern design in that time frame. So when we say, oh yeah, this looks modern, we're talking about a time frame. We're talking about that period in time. The 50s, the 60s, that was all modern, and we really love it. In the 80s and 90s, we start getting into revival design, and now we're in the contemporary design period. But modern can also be used universally to describe now and today. It feels, modern, it feels current, it feels now, because contemporary isn't always synonymous with a time period now, because we're living in that now. Modern relates to that specific period in time. So when you say, oh, this looks modern, it's not just mid-century, but it relates to this very, very broad period of time where all sorts of design falls into. You have, postmodern, you have mid-century modern, you have Bauhaus, you have Art Deco, we have all sorts of design, not modernism, encapsulated in that. Even brutalism is in that time period. So when we say something is modern, we're saying it relates to that time period, as where today we have contemporary design, but you can have contemporary design that references back to that modern time period. So where I live in Las Vegas, we have a lot of desert modern. It has a relation to original mid-century style design that was, kind of popular here at the time, but it's very contemporary and it's being built now. So you have a blend of both of them, which is why modern doesn't have a clean and linear line as saying this is one thing. For me, modern has a reference back to a certain period in time, and contemporary is everything that's happening now. You can have a modern home that's built and it will be contemporary because it's built now. So be thoughtful and be mindful of what terms you're using when it comes to modern or contemporary design to express what you are trying to get across. Another term we hear quite often is eclectic. And in interior design, this can kind of be a dirty word because for some clients, people will just say, I don't know what your style is, it's eclectic. Or, oh, you know what, that feels very eclectic to me, because it's kind of a mismatch or a bunch of different things blended together. And I don't like to use eclectic to just say I don't know what it is, it's eclectic. I'll look for what base tones or notes you have in your style, and then we build on that. And so it might be your style is XYZ plus this. So for me in my home, I would say I like Southern Regency. Southern has a reference back to colonial design and very traditional design. I love blue and white, but I'm also inspired by Regency era pieces that have a very English feeling to them. So I like to blend these two together in my home, and then I'll mix in things that are a little bit more modern or postmodern, and I like a bright feeling in a space. I think when you're defining your personal style, to just say, oh, it's eclectic, it can kind of be a little bit generic of a term. So when I think of eclectic and what eclectic really is, it is a blend of styles with a rhyme and reason. So it's not just we're getting all sorts of random stuff and putting them together in a space. That's not anything to me. Eclectic is very thoughtful in the way it's put together, and I think it also can have a very light and fresh, very youthful feeling and energy to it, because often you see a lot of different colors mixed and layered together. And you'll also see a strong blend of different style of pieces put together. You'll see something that's very traditional with something that's very modern, and something very contemporary with something that has, maybe a cultural reference to it. Eclectic design is wonderful and it's great when done well. If it's not done well and there isn't enough thought put into it, it can kind of look like a thrift store a little bit, which maybe that's your fantasy, honey. We love the thrifting community here. So if you like to live that lifestyle, I love that for you, but your home doesn't have to necessarily look like that. And when you look at the definition, pure and simple, of eclectic design, it's a mix of different styles together. That's just about everybody's home and everybody's space. So eclectic design to me, I think, is something that feels very colorful and very youthful, and it has a bold energy that doesn't necessarily define one style. Now, I love every style under the sun. If something is well designed, it's for me, because I have such a great passion for interior design, like so many of you out there, and I like to talk about every style in every video and every week. That way there's a little something for everyone. You can expand and broaden your horizons, and I absolutely love that. Which is why I would greatly appreciate it if you would take a moment and hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, join us, become a part of the LeChic family, because we we would absolutely love to have you here. On this channel, I do not like to push just one narrative or what I like about interior design and think everyone else should have. I love to discuss all design, and I think there is something out there for everyone, and we can make any home look and feel beautiful, gorgeous, luxurious, fantastic, and amazing. Now, in order to achieve that goal, something we have to talk about, something I love and most of you will agree with me on, is vintage. But not everything old is vintage, and there's different time periods that relate to different kind of eras of design or whatever you want to call that. Vintage is something that is 20 years old. So, you know, this little candy dish I have next to me, this is vintage. It's a mid-century piece, so it's not antique, it's a vintage. Something antique is usually considered to be at least 100 years old. So the really gorgeous, incredible blue jasperware jardiniere I recently bought on Facebook Marketplace from the 1890s would be an antique, and the chair it's sitting on would also be an antique. It does make a difference what age or what era something is from, because it matters in terms of the quality, in terms of the materials used, and also the price point you're looking at. Something that's vintage might be less expensive than something that's antique, and vice versa. Something that's antique may not be built to the same quality standard as something vintage. So you do have to be mindful and thoughtful about what's out there and what you're looking for. And I don't think it matters whether something is an antique, vintage, modern, contemporary, from whatever period of design it was made during or when it's from. I don't think any of that matters. I like to mix all of this together to create an interesting space that reflects my personal style. And I recommend you do the same. Think about what it is and what usefulness you want something to have, and then look for what is going to achieve that goal for you. Sometimes you can't find something that's newly made and modern to achieve that goal, and you need something that's at least 100 years old. I say go for it, and be sure you're looking out for the correct quality, the correct finish, the durability, and whether or not it will continue to live on after you have used it. One of my favorite parts of design, and something I think matters and makes a difference, is color, but there are some terms you have to know when it comes to color. Now, a hue is a pure version of a color. Think if you mix two primary colors together. Not only are the primary colors a hue, but whatever color you've gotten out of that is also a hue, because it is the pure form of its color. It has no black, no white, no gray added to it. Now, a tint is a color plus white. And what this does to a color is it will either make it more vibrant or make it kind of washed out, giving you a less saturated color. And sometimes that's what you need, sometimes that's what you want. Not all of this makes the biggest world of difference in terms of what you're doing in your home. Like if you're an artist, it matters. But if you're a person out there picking a paint color, maybe it doesn't so much. But actually what happens when you mix white in is what it would be like if you went into a store and said, give me 50% saturation. Well, they just put 50% less pigment into a paint, so it has more of that base to it, so you're getting a brighter color. Now, a tone is gray. So adding gray to a color, it's not going to make it darker, it will make it more muted. Now, depending on what variation of gray and how much of it you add, yes, it could make a color darker, but gray is considered to be a tone because we're not tinting the color and we're not changing the shade of it, we're just altering the vibrancy of the color by adding gray into it, which gray, as you know, is a mix of white and black. So we're just muting that color ever so slightly, depending on the amount of gray we add to it. Now, a shade would be black. Adding black into a color is going to make it very muted, is going to bring it down in the scale in terms of vibrancy and saturation. So for a space that gets a lot of light, you can use a darker color, a color with more shade in it, because this space can handle that. You have a lot of light, so you're going to see the color pigments in that paint in the space. So when it comes to color, you need to know about a hue, a tint, a shade, and a tone. Let's talk about something else that makes a difference, and I would like for you to know so you get a greater understanding of interior design, and that is synthetic, organic, and protein. Now, this is in reference to fibers and fabric and what they are made out of. Synthetic fibers are basically a byproduct of oil refining. They are essentially different forms and versions of plastic. There's not necessarily something wrong with them completely. You know, there is obviously an environmental factor to consider when it comes to byproducts of oil refining, but a synthetic fiber can sometimes be the best option for you in your home. So most performance fabrics will probably be synthetics, and synthetic fibers are typically easier to clean, they're less likely to be sun damaged, and they last longer because it takes like millions of years for them to break down. Now, an organic fiber would be something that comes from nature, plant-based, bamboo fibers, cotton, linen, hemp, all of it is organic based. It grows from the ground. And these are great fibers to use, but they also have an environmental impact. They do tend to drain nutrients from soil growing them, especially at the rates we consume things at. So there is a positive and a negative there. The positive being that it's an organic fiber, that it breaks down, and that, you know, we're not polluting the environment by doing it, but at the same time, we're not polluting the environment, we're like degrading it by degrading the usefulness and life of soil. So there's a positive and negative to every single thing out there. You just have to determine what's right for you. There also are protein-based fibers, which come from animals. Wool, cashmere, mohair, Angora, all of this comes from animals. And, you know, there's obviously, you know, a conversation to be had there that this is not the time or the place for, but I like to use them in a way that is thoughtful and that is respectful. And when you use a protein-based fiber, it typically has a very long lifespan. And when taken care of, it does last for a very long time, if not ever. So I think there is something to be said for that, and you should be considerate and mindful when it comes to what type of fiber you are using for the upholstery and for the materials in your home, and the sustainability factor that comes from that. Well, there you have it, everyone. I think this was a great start on your design education journey. And if you like this video and want a part 2, be sure you sound off in the comment section down below and let me know. And if you are new here, hi there, welcome. But you probably need to check out this video right over here, all about interior design mistakes that need to go. And I will see you over there.